Apparently, Eric's being a creep toward young women was kind of an open secret in D.C. and California circles. I was nowhere near that stuff, but as soon as the news came out, I thought, yeah, that tracks. There's no way in my mind it was all fabricated.
And joining us now, the man who wrote those words, 2020 Democratic presidential candidate and CEO of Noble Mobile, Andrew Yang. Andrew, thanks so much for being with us here. You know, it's interesting when, you know someone maybe peripherally for a long time and maybe have a sense of their personality. And then, as you said, maybe something comes out. You didn't know anything about it, but you think, yeah, as you said, that tracks. What is it about this that perhaps wasn't surprising to you? Why do you say that?
You do get to know people on the trail, Katrina. And Eric Swalwell, I think I said in the same piece, was a dude, a guy. He seemed, frankly, like a fairly conventional fellow. and so when I saw some of these terrible allegations come out, it wasn't one of these moments you have where it's like, oh, I can't imagine that person. It's more like, oh, yeah, that actually doesn't shock me as much as I wish it did.
Well, Andrew, how do you think he made it so far in politics at this point? If this is the worst kept secret in D.C., everybody's talking about it, yet the Democrat Party put him essentially, or, he was running with the Democrat Party to maybe the top spot in all of California, the biggest state in the country here. So explain to us how that could possibly go down.
Well, there's a natural dynamic where colleagues protect each other. You naturally become buddy-buddy with folks. And in this case, when Eric Swalwell decided to run for governor, some of the biggest allies he had were fellow members of Congress, which kind of makes sense when you think that they sit together every day or they're on planes together. And so when one of your colleagues decides to make a run, you decide to help. Now, of course, obviously, all of those people have disavowed Eric now that this news has come out. But it's something that happens, I think we all know, in both parties, where you tend to give the person next to you the benefit of the doubt, sometimes even when they don't deserve it.
Andrew, do you think it's something where you even if maybe your hunch, you have a hunch about someone, not you, but one has a hunch about, a colleague, where you kind of think, you know what, we're in this world, politics, as you said, whatever side you're on, where eventually the truth will come out. So people don't want to be the one to, I'll say, let that cat out of the bag.
Yeah, you don't want to be the skunk at the party, the person that no one wants to hang out with. You're much more likely to live and let live and figure if it is that bad, then it will come out some other way. No one wants to be the first person, particularly if, again, we're talking about someone who's a fellow office holder or colleague.
I want to ask you about this, Andrew. Reaction from Nancy Pelosi on the Swalwell allegations. Obviously, they're in the same state here. I want to bring this up.
Oh, sorry. You mean what?
Hold
Nancy
on. We
Pelosi...
were trying to play a soundbite. I guess we don't have it. Basically, she was saying that the allegations new to everybody here. Oh, we do have it. All right, we're going to play it right now.
No, that's not true. That is absolutely positive. It's true that they may say that, but it is absolutely not true.
You had no idea.
None whatsoever.
None whatsoever. Your thoughts on that? Do you think that's the case?
Well, given that Nancy Pelosi is who she is, it's plausible to me. The people who would know would be the staffers who are warning each other. You know what I mean? It's like young women who are telling them, look, watch out for that guy. Like among that circle, apparently it was not as much of a secret. But if you're Nancy Pelosi, who's going to tell you?
Yeah, and we're hearing, Andrew, that Swalwell is supposed to resign within the hour. I just, in terms of political careers, obviously, you don't want to assume anyone, or I should say with a legal situation, you don't want to assume anyone is guilty, of course, before all of the investigation is done and it is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But from a political standpoint, is he essentially guilty as charged theoretically, and therefore his political career is over?
Well, Katrina, if you think about it, there's, hey, I'm free to live my life. That's one threshold as a citizen. And then there's, hey, I'm poised to be governor of California, which obviously was well beyond the pale. And so he ended his campaign. Then the next level, does he get to keep his job in Congress? And he's already resigned. And so the last question is whether he's a free man. And that's something that's obviously up to a jury. But the threshold for an office holder or a candidate for an enormous office like governor is obviously higher.
Well, it certainly is, if you want that kind of job. Really, in all politics, though, held to a higher standard.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.